patience is something that I've struggled with my entire life. Like, I was a shortcut person with everything. Patience is something that I think people can lose, and I think they need to go back and learn it and experience it.
When you're sitting there and you already kind of feel like an outsider, the teacher of that kind of program, right, says that. How did that make you feel in that moment, if you can remember?
In the Moment Podcast, episode 8, take 1.
He's going to replace me. It's going to happen. I feel it. Frederick J. Todd.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
No problem.
In the Moment Podcast. It's great to have you here.
Yeah.
Man, you are one of my favorite people. You're hilarious.
What?
Yes, you're hilarious. You're talented. I'm so glad that we connected, which was just through social media at first, right? Mm-hmm. I want to give you the chance to kind of introduce yourself and talk about what got you into acting and all of that. But at the same time, just real quick, tell people, you've been my student for a little while. And in that time, I think we've shared a lot of laughs. I think people will see we have a little banter, share a sense of humor, similar comedic interests in terms of like film influences, acting influences, comedy influences, things like that.
Random impulses to shout like lines from funny movies,
Yes, that will happen, no doubt. But yeah, man, you're great. You're talented. I'm so excited to just see what all you do, and hopefully I'm involved in things that you do, and we get to work together.
Yeah.
And I already love working with you now. So welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, just get started with talking about what got you into acting. What made you want to pursue this?
It's not really I don't know. I know like some people have like, they're like, oh, there was this one moment where like I did something and it just like, it clicked for me and it changed my life forever. Mine was kind of like a build up of just so many things throughout my life until like I got to that moment where I was just like, yeah, you know what? I think this is like a cool area. Like, let me get into that. Like, I feel like this is where I can really enjoy what I'm doing. So, I mean, it was just kind of, I don't want to go the full life story, but like, you know, it started like just as like a little kid, you know, I was just always, I just remember my mom telling me like, oh yeah, you used to watch these VCR tapes until they exploded inside the thing. We'd have to buy a new VCR thing or whatever. Like she said, I'd have Toy Story on replay, Harry Potter on replay. Like it was like, I was that kid that was just constantly watching, running around the house, reenacting movies. And then growing up, like my cousins, we would just like get any type of camera, whether it was like a big camera, flip phone camera, we would film stuff, stupid little skits. Just so many random things, creating things like that. And as I got older and like, I remember, okay, so we're now jumping down to like high school. Wasn't very interested in a lot of things in high school, and I just played basketball. Like basketball's been my thing since I was like in 5th grade. But I remember in high school, like when I was like, you know, peak, like, you know, your mind's not fully developed. Like you're like getting in the area where like you're starting to grow up and you're starting to understand things more. I remember in 9th grade, we had like propaganda in English class. We were on like the topic of propaganda. And so it was like things like advertisements, commercials, things like that. And I was like, oh, this is like actually interesting. Like I like this kind of stuff. And my teacher's like, I want you guys to get a partner. You guys are going to come up with a product and you're going to make a commercial. And I was like, oh, that sounds sweet. And that was like one out of probably every assignment in high school that I actually took serious. But I have that commercial still. Me and my friend Quan, we filmed it. It was for socks that didn't smell. It was like scented socks. And
I love that.
Yeah. So like just like stuff like that, like it was just like I was just like, oh yeah, this is cool. But like, you know, still focused on basketball and just like all these other goals. I'm like, I'm a basketball player. Like I mean, this stuff is cool. Like I'm a goofy guy. I was always that clown who made jokes in school and at whether it's my family, friends, whoever, like I'm always joking around, just like messing around, still being me, just goofy. And then college is where I'd say really it started to turn more, like the gears started to turn more in terms of like, this is something that's like actually like doable. Like, why don't I like try it? I went to, what was it? I had I had took an ex-girlfriend of mine. We went to this modeling agency. It was like modeling, acting, commercial acting, stuff like that. And I remember just like the whole presentation, they give you the full spiel. You're like, you want to be a cover athlete for Nike? Like, and so all these other things that are like, I wouldn't say it was a scammy agency, but it was just like one of those that were just kind of like giving you a nicer picture than what it really is. Mm-hmm. But I just remember being in awe like the whole time. And I'm just there for her. Like I just brought her there because someone was like, hey, you look really good. Like, have you ever tried this? You should come to this thing. And I'm just sitting there the whole time. I'm like, wow. I'm like, there really is like a whole area for like there's a whole thing for this. Like people do this. I just never really looked at it like that. And that was just amazing to see. Like I just loved like getting all that info. But I knew what I was doing. I was like maybe a sophomore in college, and I was still, playing basketball in college, and I knew that was like my main focus. So I was just like, maybe I can do that later. I don't know. Like it's not my main focus right now. But I still loved it. I just never forgot it. And I remember someone on the way, I was like, you didn't want to get into this? I was just like, nah, I play basketball. Like, I don't know. They're like, well, here, take my info down. If you ever want to, just reach out. And that's something that was like, I'll remember as like one of those moments that was just like, oh, wow.
That someone in the industry of which you were just getting acquainted with was reaching out.
Yeah. I was just like,
take it seriously.
Oh, I was just like, I'm just some light skinned kid with curly hair. Like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know. Yeah, curly hair. Yes, I used to have hair. This
is not. We didn't put a green screen over.
No, yeah. I used to have hair. But yeah, it was. That was a big moment, and then I'd say the following, it was about a year and a half later. I think I was like a junior in college, right before COVID. I had basketball started to like fade away. I was starting to realize that it wasn't going to be what I was going to be doing the rest of my life. Like I was just like, it wasn't going to be a career for me. Like my goal was to make it to college, play basketball. Yeah, I reached that goal. But then junior year of college, you're like, okay, dude, now when this is over, what are you going to do? And I remember there was a lot going on. Like basketball was rough, stupid girl problems, of course, stuff like that. And I was just sitting in my dorm room, just like, I'd go to class, practice, back to my dorm room, and I'd just sit in my room and just do nothing. I'd watch TV or watch movies and stuff. In the darkness. Like I was like full on, like not depressed, but just like, I was just like I didn't know what I was doing.
These were like your Bane years.
Yeah, Bane. And, yeah, I just was sitting there for a while and I was just like, my life is worthless. I have nothing to live for after basketball. But then I remember, I'll never forget this. I know this is like one of those moments that's like pivotal. I was watching one of my favorite shows. I was watching Malcolm in the Middle, and I was just binge watching all of it. And it was as good as the show gets. I think the show's hilarious, which they're bringing it back, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. They are bringing it back. They got 4 episodes they're filming. Yeah.
Wow. You're excited.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited for it. But I was watching it and I was just like, and I saw, I'll never forget this too. One of the episodes, my Uncle James, my Uncle James Black, he's lived out in Los Angeles for a while. I call him my Uncle James. He's my dad's very close friend. They went to high school together. He's been living in LA for a long time and he's done a lot of work. He's worked on, he was on Anger Management with Charlie Sheen. Like he's done a lot of different films, worked with a lot of great people, and he's still out there now, killing it.
Wow.
And he was someone that was always like, I kind of saw what he was doing. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And like, but it never registered because I was really young whenever I met him and stuff. But then I was watching an episode of Malcolm in the Middle, and he has a scene with Bryan Cranston in it, and he's playing like this army general. And I was like, what? I was like, Uncle James, what? And so then I think I texted him. I don't remember if I did or not. I just remember saying something about it to him. I was like, oh, I did not know you were in Malcolm in the Middle. He's like, oh yeah, Bryan Cranston, great guy. He was awesome. I was just like, what?
And you were in college at the time.
Yeah, I was in my dorm. I was sitting in my dorm room.
Kind of aimless.
Yeah.
Binge watching a show, feel good show.
Yeah.
And your uncle, your dad's friend, pops up. And you're in Ohio, right?
Yeah.
At this time. And he's in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
At the time when he shot this and still living there.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it like when you saw that and then you were able to reach out to him and he was like, yeah, I did that.
It was just cool because I was just like, bro, I knew that he had like done work with some crazy people. I just didn't know, like he was in one of my favorite shows. I was just like, this is a show I loved watching, like as they have the reruns at like Nick at Night on stuff like that. They'd play it on Nickelodeon at nighttime and I'd watch it. And like I was just picking up and I never realized it, I guess, because I was younger. I didn't really get a chance to watch all of them. Yeah, that's how deep I was into what I was doing. I sat and watched episode 1 all the way through of every season. But like, yeah, I saw him, I texted him, said that stuff. And I was just like, God, I want to do that. I was like, I just want to like do that. Like, that'd be so cool. And I had that, I was 20 years old? 20, maybe going on 21. I don't think I was 21 yet. But I had that moment. I was just like, you know what? Dropping out of school. I'm moving to Los Angeles. I'm going to do this. And I like texted my parents and I was just like, hey, I need to talk to you guys. And I remember I called them. I was just like, I think I'm done with school. I'm done with basketball. I just want to, I want to be an actor and do this. And my parents are like, no, we're paying for school. You're not doing that. Like, no, what are you? No, you're not doing that. And I was just like, but I wanna. But like, yeah, it was more of an impulse decision. I was just like, God, I just want to be done. I'm done with school. I'm done. And I just remember for like a couple of days, I was just like, I just felt free. I was just like, I ain't gonna be doing this much longer. I don't practice basketball practice. I don't care no more. Class, who cares? I'm just, and then my dad reached out to my Uncle James and he called me. He's like, yeah, so your parents say you're interested in acting and stuff like that. I was like, yeah. I was like, I really want to do that. Like what you're doing, like it just seems so cool. And he was like, yeah, they said you're thinking about dropping out of college and just doing that. I'm like, yeah. He's like, don't. And I was like, oh, okay. Why not? He was just like, don't do that. He's like, you've already started college. You're 2 years in. He's like, don't waste the education. Trust me, that's going to be something that you can keep with you, whatever your major is, whatever. He's like, but he's like, I want you to find the theater program and go. And if you're not majoring or taking any type of theater classes, go do that right now. And I was like, theater? That's not camera. I was like, no one's going to see it. I was like, and the theater kids are strange. That's whatever, like, you know, because like I'm a small community, like it's not community college, small college, whatever. And like everyone had their cliques. And I was just like, I don't know if I'll fit it. I don't know if I'll fit in there. He's like, you're not dropping out. That's stupid. He's like, trust me, you are being in this business for as long as I have. He's like dropping out and just moving here with nothing but a dime and a dream is gonna for sure fail you. Like it's nice to think of like that. Like it's good to be optimistic, but like realistically, don't do that. Is basically what he was saying. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I went theater department. Sorry, this is a long story, by the way.
This is great.
Went to the theater department. Changed. Originally, I started as a communications major when I first got to college. Then I switched to sports management and coaching. And then I realized the only thing I liked about sports was playing it. I hated everything else outside of it. It was just boring to me. So then I went to the theater department and I was like, yeah, I'd like to just change my major to theater. And the theater director, J. Alexander, he's a cool guy. He was just like, okay. He's like, is there a reason? Because he's just like random. He's just like, because we had talked before, him and I, because when I was a communications major, he also ran that department too. And he knew I was an athlete, just basketball player. And he's just like, kind of random. He's just like, what's got you interested? I'm just like, I was like, I just love, entertaining people. I just always liked that stuff. I was like, I just want to learn more about it, whatever. And he's just like, okay. And he's like, I'm not going to steer you away from trying to learn about it or whatever. And so signed up. That next semester I was in acting 1, which was cool. That was fun. That was a good time. And then we did stage combat, which is an also cool class. And then the other classes were like theater for social change, stage management, things of that nature. And it was just like all the classes were just like data related. Like the other ones, like the stage management and like what was it? Like the literature. There was like a certain, I forget what the name of the class was, but there was like a literature based class. Like those ones, I was just like, man, boring. I was like, let me do the fun stuff. Like, let me do the fun stuff. And yeah, I was maybe like 3 weeks in, and then he scheduled a meeting for me to come in, and like, this wasn't really a bad thing. Like I didn't take it as a bad thing. Like at the time I was just like, dang, but I went in and he was just like, I don't really think this is what you want to do. I don't think you're really fitting in. It seems like you don't feel comfortable. And it was true. Like I said, people had their cliques, and like not judging these, I'm still like great people. Like they were nice and I understood where they were coming from. But the group of people in the theater program, it kind of viewed me as like that outsider. They were like, why is this basketball player kind of here? Like I remember a specific moment. It was, we were on like the stage and they were getting ready for an upcoming show, and I had just joined. So like, it wasn't like I was a part of the show. They were preparing for it. And like they had the stage set, they had all the props and stuff. And like he was showing us, he was like, so this is the stage, like this is what we do. It was in one of our classes in the morning. And I was just like, oh, cool. And I was just like looking at one of the things. I was just like, didn't even touch it. And some dude's like, don't touch that. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. He's just like, that is important for the show. Do not touch it. And I was just like, I was just looking at it. Like, I was just like, I'm sorry. I don't know I was just looking, I'm interested. And they just, none of them really, I mean, they didn't talk to me or nothing like that. All of them just kind of like, I was in, I sat in the corner of the classroom. I did whatever we did, and that was it. They all hung out. I didn't really, because I had practice or something like that, and that was it. So yeah, we fast forward back to that meeting. It was just, yeah, he was just like, I don't think this is really working. He's like, I don't want you to be here and not be comfortable the whole time. I don't want you to feel like you're just dragging along in this. Like, I saw where he was coming from. Like at the time I was like kind of discouraged. I was like, oh, he doesn't think I'm good for this or whatever. But I see what he was doing. Like, you're only gonna, like, the environment you're in can make a huge difference. I think that's what he saw. Like, I wasn't really fitting into the environment, which is good. I'm glad he saw that. And he's just like, I think you should just find another major, find something that could interest you, and where you could take in some valuable information. And like, that was pretty much the basis of our meeting. I was just like, so you don't think I should do this? He's just like, I just don't think it's really, he's like, I can see where you're coming from. Like, I understand you like entertaining. He's like, I just don't think the program here is a good fit for you.
And I know you said you can see where he's coming from now.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you're sitting there and you already kind of feel like an outsider, and the kind of leader, the teacher of that kind of program, right, says that, how did that make you feel in that moment, if you can remember?
In the moment, like, I was just like, I was confused, and like, not really, I wasn't one to really like get super discouraged just because someone told me I couldn't do something, or like someone like steered me in a different direction, depending on who the person is. So I remember whenever that happened, I was just like, okay, I'll change it. Like, it was like kind of like, it wasn't like I'm trying to think of like how I would have been feeling in that moment. Like, I already was going through a lot. So in that, it was just like, dang, like maybe this isn't, like maybe, oh, no. I remember now. I remember I was just like, see, I knew, I was going to tell Uncle James the theater thing was stupid. The theater thing was stupid. I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to be on screen anyways. Who cares? It was like a mix of emotions. Like, I was just like, dang, I wish I could have done that. Like, oh, this was getting fun, or like whatever. But like, I wasn't too down on it. Like, I just was like, okay, well, I guess let me find something that interests me, which school already wasn't interesting to me. So. And
you had like a year and a half left?
Yeah, I was a sophomore at this time. This was like the end of my sophomore year. Okay. So I was going into my junior year, so still undecided. Yeah. So I just took my core classes. I didn't have a major, decided. And then that summer I decided, I was like, I started dating a girl at the time, and she was in psychology. And I remember some of the stuff she was talking to me about. And I was like, hey, this seems pretty interesting. Like, I'll just take psychology. And if I don't know something, she'll just help me with it.
Yeah.
So I was just like, whatever. So then I ended up switching to psychology, and I'm glad I did that. That was really, I did learn a lot in that. Obviously, you got to go to grad school to be practical in any type of practice in psychology. But I was glad I got the base work of it all and just understanding a lot of human behavior, sociology related topics too, and how people can behave in groups in different settings. All that info was great. I'm glad I did it. So yeah. But I remember telling myself though, the one thing I told myself, and this is what I tell people all the time when they ask me how I got into acting, I tell them that whenever they told me to switch and get out of that, I was like, the second I graduate, my focus is shifting strictly on just getting on a screen, like getting on screens. Like I'm gonna get into acting some way, somehow. I'm gonna find a class, take it. The second I graduate, I don't care about anything else. That was kind of like where my mind shifted to. And that was getting me through school. I was like, as soon as I'm done, I'm done. Like I remember in our psychology program, I was one of like 3 males. It was like the rest were girls. And like, it wasn't a big program. There was maybe 20 of us. And we had like these things where like everybody there pretty much was going to grad school for it. And like, we had like outro, like papers and stuff like that. They're like, oh, what do you plan on doing with this? Like, submit this to me for a letter of recommendation for your applications to this and that. And I was the only one who wasn't doing these things. I wasn't submitting anything. And I remember on one of the things, on one of the papers, is like, where do you see yourself in this career in the next 10 years? And I was like, not in this field, on a TV screen somewhere. And I wrote that on there and submitted it to her. And like everybody's emails were like, all this information. And she's like, I see you're going to be pursuing that. Good luck. Like just stuff like that. And our outro emails when we graduated and stuff. So it was, I'm glad that I did it, but that's pretty much how I got from there.
So then when you graduate college and even much before you were actually graduated, that I'm going to focus on acting.
Yeah.
How quickly did you find that next step found you, or that you took that next step to pursue acting, and what was it?
So I'm trying to think exactly. I remember I graduated, was back home, just saved up some money, and I was like, I'm from Mansfield, Ohio. I was in Mansfield, and I was just like, there's not really anything here. It's a small little town in central Ohio, not really in a major city. So I was like, I need to find somewhere. And the girl I was dating at the time lived in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I was like, oh, Cincinnati, there's got to be like some classes or anything I could take out there. And I just looked up Cincinnati acting classes. And multiple things came up. And then I found my one class that I started off in. And I was like, okay, next time I go out to see my girlfriend, I'll just pop in for a class. And that's what I did. So like, I think like a couple weeks later, I went. And it was summertime, and I went, and I was like, hanging out with my girlfriend. I was like, hey, I'm about to go to this class. And she's like, okay, have fun. And then I went, and it was a good time. And yeah, so then I just was like, all right, cool. And I think 2 months later, I moved out to Cincinnati. I was like, I'll be closer to her. I can just take this class, and I'm not in little old Mansfield.
And during this time, were you still corresponding with Uncle James about everything?
Yeah, I kept him updated with stuff, and I would reach out to him if I had questions and things like that. And I understood he was busy at times. Like there was sometimes like, young, stupid me, I would just like reach out or like say something, and like it would take him a while to get back to me. I'm just like, oh, he just thinks I'm not gonna do it or whatever. Like he's probably thinking I'm not gonna he thinks I'm not serious. He thinks I just want the fame or whatever, blah, blah. But like, he's a busy guy. He's always working. Like, as I go, I was just like, he wasn't even thinking that stuff. He's probably working, which he was doing a lot of times.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, we would sometimes be updated, which was cool. I haven't spoke to him in a minute, but I'll reach out to him soon here eventually. I know he's still doing a lot of work, but like, yeah, we would keep updated. I'd tell him how the class was going. Anytime I booked something, I would let him know. Yeah.
And then, the trajectory, I think a lot of people feel this way. Let's say you're growing up in a small town. A lot of people are, or a smaller town. It's not a big metropolis like New York or LA or even any
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Even Cincinnati.
Like,
You weren't growing up there. And I think the natural thought is you're going to go to the coasts, one of the coasts, or especially now with Atlanta. Atlanta's a big.
Yeah, that
big
was one that
too.
I was considering for a little bit.
So I know James was out there, and in your class, at some point, I think that's really how people feel when they don't live in one of those major industry cities. What in the world? How did you get to Texas? And then I guess where do you see yourself going after this, or is there is geography not that important?
So to kind of answer the first question, like how I got here, I got to that point. I think I had been living in Cincinnati for almost 2 years. And I had reached that point, like I was doing very well. I was like booking things and having fun and working on projects, meeting so many great people. I was making money too. Like I was like actually doing well. And it was like crazy. And I never took that for granted. 'Cause I know when you're a beginner, you look at so many different like resources and you see so much information. Like I was just on like you realize how depressing Reddit is. Reddit is like crazy. So I'm like on the acting forum and people are like, I've been in this industry 10 years. I've never booked anything or made a single dime. And I'm just like, that just makes like, it's like, yeah, you feel bad for those people. And then I'm just like, this is making me feel so grateful. So like anytime I was on set, I'd be so grateful. I'm just like, God, I'm just so glad that I'm even working. Like some people don't even get this chance to do this. And it's like, and the fact that I can make a little bit of money doing it too is like, it's great. But then I got to that point where I was just like, okay, I'm doing very well here in this Midwest hub. For in my personal opinion, like for me personally, like obviously there's a lot more like that you could be doing. Like obviously you get to like the Chicago area, even headed up towards New York, whatever. Like I'm just like, okay, I think I need to start creeping my way into these like more of like a hub that has more challenges to get out of that comfort zone. Cause I don't want to sit here and feel like, oh yeah, I'm dominating Cincinnati, Ohio. It's just like, what? Like I wasn't even really dominating. Like there's people out there who are doing more than me. Like I'm not sitting here acting like I'm just too good for it. Like I was just like, I'm ready for a new challenge. Like I'm ready to get out there and kind of just see what's out there. So it was months of just looking up many different areas where to go because Atlanta was starting to explode. This was like post-COVID. So it was like Atlanta was really starting to pick up after COVID. You got like Tyler Perry Studios that was built out there and like Stranger Things is filming out there. Like everything's happening in Atlanta. My sister had just moved out there for a little bit. I was just like, there's a lot going on out there. I was just like, maybe. But then I was also like, oh, maybe New York. And I was like, I can't stand the cold. So then I was like, Chicago. I was like, I can't stand the cold. It's like Los Angeles. I was like, ooh, nice weather. Yeah. Expensive. Expensive. Yeah. Really far away too. I was like, also more challenging. Going to be a really big challenge. So I was just like, dang. And funny, I remember in that time, I had booked I did my first TV role. It was a crime reenactment, Fatal Attraction was what it was called. It was like first kind of like nationally televised thing. Like it was cool. I did that. And I remember my dad had reposted it or something on Facebook. And then my Uncle James saw it and he like called us while we were all in the car. We were in Atlanta visiting my sister. We watched that episode in Atlanta when it aired, the day it did. And it was just like so cool. It was just like, oh, like I got to sit and watch it. My family, we were in an Airbnb, just watching it on the freaking TV. And then we're driving to like, I forget what we were doing. And then I just remember James calls and we're on the speaker in the car. He's like, my dad's name is Fred. My dad's name is Fred too. He's like, Freddie. He's like, was that Jackson? Jackson's what I've always gone by in my life. He's like, was that Jackson on Fatal Attraction? And they're all like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, that was me, Uncle James. He's like, dude, congrats. Like, that's awesome. He's just like, so he's like, you're on TV now and stuff, man. He's like, you're making this progress. What you doing? You're not staying in Ohio, are you? I'm like, it was like in the midst of thinking about it. He's like, I'm in the midst of thinking about where to go. I'm not too sure. I'm like, I'm thinking Atlanta, maybe Los Angeles. I don't know. And he's like, hey, my friend. He's like, you're making strides that not many people make early on. Like, you're doing a good job. And he was just giving me encouragement. It was great to hear. And he was just like, oh, he's like, you ever come out here, man? I'll help you out. He's like, I can't guarantee you anything, but he's like, I can put in some words with some people that could possibly be representation if you ever needed it. And he's like, again, I'm not guaranteeing you anything. I can give you an opportunity to get in front of them possibly, but you getting signed with someone, I'm not going to guarantee. I was just like, oh, that would be sweet. He's like, yeah. So he's like, yeah, you need to get out of there, get out of Ohio, start. I don't remember exactly what he said. It was just like pretty much saying like, go and like, do like find somewhere to go. And I was just like, yeah, I really need to decide where I'm going soon. And that was like, okay, now do I want to go out there and have him help me? And I just was so torn on it. And then you come along. And you come along. I'm working on an audition and I'm struggling. And I feel like there's this huge thing that I'm missing in my craft that I just literally, I feel like I'm just missing something. Like, I feel like I'm doing good. I'm like, dang, I'm doing okay. Like, starting off, like I'm only a year and a half into this and I'm got some credits. Like, I've made a little bit of money. Like, why am I having this problem of feeling like I suck? Like, why do I feel like I suck right now? So, yeah, that's where, again, I'm struggling with audition. This is a story I kind of told you about. I remember like how this all started. And I just get on freaking TikTok and I'm scrolling and like you see all the acting related content on there. Like, you want to be on Netflix with no experience? Sign up for my 90-day course. $900 down payment, then just $450 a month. It's just like, what? Like, I'm just like blocking all these accounts. And then I see yours, 3-minute long video of you in like your living room and you're like, you feel like you're struggling. I feel like you're struggling as an actor. Like, and you're just like breaking down this stuff. And I'm like sitting here watching a 3-minute video. And at the time, your account wasn't what it was. Like, you didn't really have, I think you weren't even in the 10,000s yet at the time, I don't think. In terms of follower wise, like you were still like just pumping out content, which I saw. So I'm like, dang, this dude's just throwing out 3, 4, 5-minute videos like on TikTok. I'm like, this is way better than those 5 seconds. Like, you want to get on Netflix? Come book with me right now. Like, come take my class. Yeah. Like, I'm just like, I like this. I like this guy's just giving like gems in his videos for, he's like, there's like 7 likes on this video. Like there's 50 likes on this one. Like, and I scroll down to some of them. I'm like, okay, people are seeing this video. I'm like, and I'm refreshing each day. I'm like seeing your account like grow and grow. I'm like, dang. I was like, this guy just cares. Like, he doesn't care. He's not doing this for like, you can tell he's not out here just money grabbing for people to come take his class, desperate actors to come sign up. Right. He's just helping out people with what he knows. Mm-hmm. And so then I remember a couple of your videos were like helping me practically with some scripts I had for auditions. And then I hopped on that live with you. You were on live and I was just like, dude, I had my freaking bonnet on and everything. I remember.
It was the best because I was on the live and it was like, oh my gosh, can I please join the live? And I was like, I don't know who this is. Mm-hmm. And I was like, join? I was like, yeah, jump in. I didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah. And then,
I'm sitting there with my bonnet on.
And you were like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
You said something. It was exactly what I was doing in that moment. I think there was an audition and you were trying to, and
something I was struggling with in that moment.
You can speak to this better than me because you were actually experiencing it. But I think I remember you saying, I was literally doing an audition almost all day with a friend. And I think I got trapped into just trying to say the lines in a way that was fresh and interesting and new. And it just kept feeling like it wasn't connected to anything. And that was the video topic, I think. Yeah. I was like, do you do this? And it was like taking a line and being like, saying them in a variety of ways. And I was like, don't do that. Try this. Because that was all I was doing is, like you said, I was just sharing what worked for me with those that are in the same position. And so when you jumped on, it was really great because I think I actually teared up a little bit.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I did. Yeah, you cried. I remember. You cry a lot. I don't think I cried. No, I did. I remember because I was so moved by it because you were so like grateful and expressive and enthusiastic, and you were like, it really actually helped me. And I was like, that's why I'm doing this. Is just, if there's one person, anyone out there that's like me in any way, and they're just beating their head against the wall going, I just don't know what to do. I wish someone would tell me what to do, because acting can be you can fall into so many traps, but it can also be very mystical and weird. And some of the greatest actors of all time, they can't really simplify it. They'll say something and you're kind of like,
you don't know what the heck they're talking about.
What are you saying?
Yeah. It's indescribable.
And then there's some teachers who do have an ability to simplify it, but a lot of them, maybe they don't teach, or maybe they don't get called to teach, or maybe you're just not in front of them. And when Jim taught me and I saw him for the first time, I remember thinking, thank you, God, that this guy is doing this, and he's in his 30s, and he's, a lot of teachers, they act for as long as they want to or can. And then they teach in the latter years. And when I saw him, I was like, he's so young and enthusiastic, but he's spot on. Everything he says makes sense to me. And it was like, again, like I just feel forever indebted to Jim for what he did. And then when he had asked me to teach at that program and it shut down before I was able to, I remember feeling that same thing where I was like, I can kind of join him and so many teachers out there and so many great people who have been passing this thing on. I can kind of join them in the legacy of serving another actor.
Giving off that,
And so when
what
I was really glad that you popped on there. And then I think that was the first time that we were like, well, let's talk on like a Zoom. Let's consult about things.
I remember because I told you had offered like that, like you were just like, you had like your course that you had on there, and you're just like, it's just like different videos, like it's there, slides. I was like, I'm about to get it right now, and like I think I did it like the next day, and I was just like, I'm gonna take it. I was like, I'm gonna reach out to you about other stuff too. I was like, but I'm gonna take this first, and then I'll let you know. And I remember doing that, and then I reached out. We talked, and like in between that time of like after me taking the course, and I was like, dang, I need more. I was like, I need more. And then that's why I hit you up. And before the video call, this is all in that time frame of me trying to figure out where the heck I'm going. Like, to go back to the question of just like, how did I end up out here in Dallas, was just like, where am I gonna go in that time, like in between from when I took your course to like a couple days before, or like we got on the Zoom. I was just like, it's like I keep seeing this dude's in like the Dallas area. I was like, that's different. It's like, okay, interesting. I was like, never really thought of Texas as a spot to like do anything acting related. I was just like, never even thought about it. It's such a big state. It's like, let me take a look. So like I just started doing research and just looking things up and see different things. I was like, seems like there's a decent amount of opportunity out here. I wasn't made up. My mind wasn't made up yet. But then I remember we got on the Zoom call and like we talked, and I let you go over everything, and you're just like, and like you were going over like how we do it over Zoom and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna lie, the whole time you were doing that, when I think I told you this too physically, I was like, listen, dude, not gonna lie, all that Zoom stuff, I was like, I feel like I'm probably gonna do this with you in person. Just like something along those lines. I remember telling you that. I was like, and the whole time I was preparing for that meeting, I was just like, this guy's gonna think I'm a psycho. He's gonna think I'm some crazy dude. Like,
turns out it was right. Turns out it was that's exactly what. No.
Yeah, I was just yep. But I was just like, I in that time frame of me trying to figure out where I was going, and to also kind of answer your question of you're just like, where do you think you're gonna go to next? I kind of stopped doing that. I stopped planning. And that's something, when I let that go, it's the most freeing thing ever. That I think one of the most freeing things I've ever experienced was just like letting go of planning. This can relate to, I'm sure we'll touch on it here in a little bit, like in terms of like doing a scene, or just what you're trying to plan like 5 years ahead of time. Like, you have goals, you want to reach them, but like letting that feel like you have to get those certain things, or like as like if you don't do it, then like, oh, you fail. Like it can, for certain people, like some people that could help. Like for me though, I had to let that go. So, because that's what was holding me back, was the fear. Because it created a sense of fear. It's just like, oh, if I don't end up there, where am I gonna be? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, I don't know. I'll be lost because I had this plan to get here and this, do this and then that, and then I end up here and then I should be here doing this. It's like all those crazy thoughts for someone like me who has so many thoughts and so many things that are going on in my mind, that can hold me back. So I had to let that go. And I was just like, I'm just gonna start trusting whatever happens. And so I'm just start trusting my gut, just going with whatever, rolling with whatever comes my way. And then that's what I was just like, I don't care. I was just like, dude, I'm probably gonna end up seeing you, like maybe. Like I don't care. Like in my head, I was just like, what if I just take a trip out there, take some classes for a couple months, come back? Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And then we got off that Zoom. 2 days later, I had booked like a concept, like a proof of concept type film out here. Mm-hmm. I remember hitting you up about that. I was like, yeah, so I booked something out in Dallas. Like, did you want to meet up? And it was like, when I tell you this is proof of concept, like it was like, we film for a day, I get $100. Like, it's not like I'm making money on this thing or anything. I was just like, it's like, well, something's telling me to go out there and check it out, obviously. So I'm gonna do it. And I booked the tickets that night. I was like, before I even hit you up, like I was just like, I'm going to Dallas. Like, I'll probably spend a couple days there. So then I hit you up. I was like, want to meet up? We met up. We talked for about 9 hours in that coffee shop.
They were like, hey, we're closed. We're closed.
We closed at noon. We got here at 6 in the morning.
We didn't even buy coffee.
I didn't. No.
Yeah, you don't drink coffee.
But yeah, so we met up, talked. I toured Dallas around, and I was just like, I was sitting at what's it called, Turtle Creek Park. Nice little water, nice walking trail too. And I was just like, I'm probably gonna move here. I was just like, I'm probably gonna move here. Why not? Mm-hmm. And I think the week after that, I had already found a place, found a roommate in a house on Facebook. And within that, I was just like, well, wow, guess I'm moving there in a month. So,
so then now, how long have you been here?
I moved here last July. So it's been over a year and a half, a little bit over about a year and a half. Yeah, it's about that time. Yeah.
And how have you seen yourself change in that time that you said, okay, I'm going to branch out. I'm going to go somewhere new, get out of my comfort zone. And of course you did that, and you went to a place you didn't even anticipate at the time when you were first thinking of branching out. Mm-hmm. How have you changed in the time that you've been here?
If I talked about how I've changed, we'd have to do 3 parts of this.
Tune in for part 2 and 3.
Part 2, part 3 coming soon. And I can't go like, just for time's sake, I don't want to go too deep into that. It's just like, but I'll tell you, like I said, it's probably one of the most freeing things and greatest feelings was just letting go and just trusting whatever happens and just going with it. And I'm still working on that, doing that more each and every day. It's been, moving out here has been the best thing probably I've ever done in my life. Just for me personally, just for acting, for everything, every aspect, I needed it. I needed to just get out and just be like, I don't know. Because when I was coming out here, of course, like they care, family, friends, they're just like, oh, how long do you think you're gonna be out there? I'm just like, I don't know. I just know I'm going there now.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, when I moved to New York from Texas, I remember thinking the same thing, and people were like, well, when are you coming back? And again, I kind of had the same mentality. I was like, I'm not really setting a deadline, or I don't know. I just want to act. I just know I want to act. And
wherever it takes you.
At the time, I mean, I moved out there in 2009, so there was no Zoom video call. There was no there was no self-tape. Like it
was you going into that studio or whatever, or finding an acting coach. Acting is action and reaction. You
actually
get up here.
I wish I had a teacher.
Cry.
More tears, more.
Like I could just, like when people think New York acting class is probably back in 2009, I feel like that's what it is. You go to a couple of those, you're like, yeah, this is weird. I'm gonna try something out.
Man, there's all types. I mean, I think all over, but yeah, I went to that 2-year film and TV acting conservatory, and I actually had a similar moment when I had my teacher, my second year. He had, the way that it worked was like this: in the second year scene study teachers, they would recruit you from the first year. So they would sit in on certain classes. And I had a Meisner technique class taught by John Terrell, who I think still teaches at the Neighborhood Playhouse, but he was trained by Sanford Meisner. And I only had him for a semester, but he was an amazing teacher. Mm-hmm. And we had it was sort of like an improvisation during activity.
Yeah.
At the time I was really, I was 17. I didn't know anything, but I was just really trying to be a sponge. And there was just a moment where it was just an impulse. It was just a reaction, but someone had wronged me in the scene, and I got really upset. I got mad. And it was when the scene study teacher was in there. And he was very cryptic and mysterious, and then he left. And then the next year I was put in his class, and it was an invite-only second year thing. So a lot of people just, you got kicked out of the first year.
Yeah.
Some people would get back. So I got invited back, and then I was working in his class. You would think it was kind of perfect. Like, wow, he wanted me. He's a really great teacher, very experienced. Everybody respects him. Now it's in the second year. It's very serious. We're doing a lot of on-camera acting training. We're applying all the things we're learning in the classes. It was invite only.
Yeah.
And I was in there, and I just remember feeling such a sense of dread in his class. And we were, and a lot of this has shaped how I teach now too, but we were given scenes that the teacher specifically had worked on a long time and had assigned to people, and it was all film stuff, some TV, but mostly film.
Yeah.
And my naive self just would get the scene, and I would go watch the performance. So it was it's from You Can Count on Me, and I just watched Mark Ruffalo's performance of the exact scene I was acting in. I was like, if I just copy him, I'm going to be getting good grades.
Yeah.
Which of course is not what acting is, and I it's why I don't want students of mine to be assigned any scene. I want them to choose the scene, but I also want it to be from a play.
Yeah, because it's really something. If you haven't seen it physically, it's you're not mentally thinking about, let me recreate what they did, or like you're gonna take what they did and try to.
Yes, even if, and I think actors do this a lot because emulation precedes originality, and just in human nature, I think actors a lot of times, even if you don't see the performance, but you say Robert De Niro played this part, don't watch it. You sort of get like Robert De Niro in your head if you've seen any of his work, and so when you do it, you're gonna.
You talking to me?
Actually, I don't.
Like, it's a comedy.
But no, you're gonna die laughing. This is so ridiculous. So the first, this is before even high school. I'd had a couple little like dipping my toe into theater, into acting, and it always got thwarted. Something happened where a show I was in got canceled or something, and so in 7th grade we were in this play. And the football coach was the theater teacher, which was amazing.
That's random.
It was so random.
Usually they're the history teacher.
100%. And I was like, oh, wow, I kind of know coach. And then I'm in this theater class. And I was always like you, similar, like class clown, always goofing off, crazy imagination, trying to make movies with my pets on the side while I played basketball. It was like very similar.
Yeah.
And I was in this class, and we were given a monologue assignment. And so you can see I did this. I kept doing this until it didn't work. But I said, "What's a monologue?" And he said, "It's when any actor in a movie talks for a long time without being interrupted." That's what he told me.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay." And my favorite movie at the time was Remember the Titans.
Oh yeah.
You might see where this is going.
Yeah.
So you know the scene. You've seen Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
So you remember the scene when they get into a fight. It's like a big fight between the players, and then it's Denzel comes in and he gives them that speech.
Yeah.
So I'm like 60 pounds, soaking wet, like 5'2", parted hair,
Caucasian.
You may have noticed a little bit lighter skin than you. And I walk in, and I have been watching this tape over and over, and literally this close to the TV, like Denzel Washington, and like doing everything he's doing. I got up in front of the class. I was so excited.
Yeah.
And I was like, bunch of tough guys. Like a bunch of 5th grade sissies after a cat fight. You got anger? I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But I went through this whole thing into your John Brown hind parts, and then you will run a mile. Perfection. So I did that whole thing, and it was like, you cut to the audience, which is the class, and they're all going, and I'm like, they can't handle my genius. Like, and I remember coach being like, have a seat. And I even walked like Denzel back to my seat. Dude, just sat down and like.
Did you do the
I did everything. Pelican Bay. No, I didn't do all that. But I was obsessed. So I thought I did great. And then I sit down and literally I think I'm gonna get on varsity theater. Like, I don't know what I'm.
Yeah.
So then he holds me after class and I'm like, he's about to put me in a show. And he goes, Adam. And I'm like, uh-huh. And he's like, stop doing that. Stop doing that. And I'm like, what? And he's like, you can't do that. And I was like, do what? And he was like, you can't just do an impression of Denzel Washington. And I was mortified because I was like,
oh, you were like, all right, okay.
All right. I'm putting cases on all you. He was like, you have to stop now. So I stopped. He told me, I have to give you.
Start whipping out John Q. Quotes. My son. He's like, stop. You're not done.
Every character. Dude, I loved John Q growing up.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
I used to cry all the time. He's so good in that movie. Anyway.
Yeah.
So then he tells me I have to give you a failing grade.
Oh.
But then the next day, I still remember the guy's name. I won't say his name.
Yeah.
Guy came in and he did a perfect impression of Samwise Gamgee from Lord of the Rings. Mr. Fertile. And I went up to him and I said, and he got an A. And I was like, how come Marcus gets an A? I'm putting cases on all. And he was like, you gotta stop. He was like, Adam, it just isn't quite. Anyway, of course, I had quite a lack of awareness. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to New York, I'm doing the same thing, right? I'm like, I'm gonna get an A, so I'm gonna impersonate, I guess, Mark Ruffalo. I'm gonna abandon anything I've learned about acting. I'm just gonna do so I can get this teacher to like me.
Yeah,
is really what I was after. Big mistake. So I do the scene, and I remember doing it because I do impressions all the time, and we talked about that. And it's like I'm doing, and I didn't want to say I'm doing exactly what Mark Ruffalo did. Why are you saying the scene's not going well?
Yeah.
But it was because it was so fake. It wasn't attached to
You're not Mark Ruffalo. He just grabs yours. You're not Mark.
And I'm like, so I start to get mad in the feedback. And I was never mad.
Yeah.
In class or anything. And he said, Adam, and he was I want to do an impression of him, I won't. He was like,
you usually do great impressions of the people.
I hope it doesn't come across as disrespectful. Anyway, he would sit at the monitor.
Yeah.
And he would snap like that, like very violent, like
yeah.
And it would be two cameras, and they would go back and forth. He would real time cut between the two actors in the scene. So I was doing the scene with my scene partner, and at the end he would flip his head around and he would go like Nosferatu or something.
I was about to say, that's perfect.
And he was like, Adam, I don't get it. And I would be like, what? Just trembling, like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Oh.
And I was like, what do you mean? What don't, and everybody's going, and he's like, what are you feeling? And I was like, I'm feeling scared. And he was like, not now, you idiot. He was like, in the scene. And I was like, angry. The character's angry. And he's like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so you're not getting that I'm angry. And he's like, I don't get it. And he would never just be like, yeah, exactly. He didn't have that personable thing.
He's casual with his words, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, it was like the fourth time he had said I don't get it to me in the span of a few weeks. And he was like, he couldn't quite put it into words, but I started getting mad. And he said, you're mad now. And I said, I'm not mad.
He's saying he wasn't getting it for you're not giving it to me. You're not giving it. Yeah.
I don't believe you're angry.
Yeah.
So once I started to get that, I was like, oh, well, I don't know. I am angry. I'm acting. He goes, you're angry now in this feedback.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And he goes, we don't get any of that when you act. And I was like, well, anger is immature. And he was like, who told you this? And I was like, my brother? My brother told me?
Imbecile, don't listen.
Your brother's an idiot. He's not an artist. No. And I remember thinking like, oh wait, my brain, I'm like, I learned this. Like I learned, and it was a big learning point for me where I was like, I need to understand what this man is saying. And he said, I don't care how you live. And I'm not saying be a jerk to everybody, but you can't judge your own emotion while you're acting. You'll never fully express yourself. And I saw my brother that day. We were both living in New York at the time. And I got on the train with him and I was like, how do you feel about anger? And he was like, it's immature. And I was like, that's what I thought. And I was like, interesting. So I kind of theorizing with him and kind of getting up to speed. And he was like, oh, that's interesting. You know, he didn't pursue acting at all or anything like that. So it's just interesting to him. But for me, it was like, this is important. So then I kept being late to class, like 1 minute late. And the policy was if you're 1 minute late, the door's locked. And I kept missing classes because of it. Like I missed 3 in like 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, he came out and he was like, in my office after lunch. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? So we went and we sat down and he was like, very different one-on-one. He was like, Adam, I just feel like you don't want to act. And I was like, what? That's why I related to what you were saying when you were in college and your professor was like, I don't think you're fitting in. I think this is not your thing. Yeah. And I was like, I do want to act very badly. I promise I do. And he was like, why don't you come to my class? I was like, I do. You shut the door. He goes, but you know the policy, if you really wanted to be there, you'd be there on time. I was like, the train, you know, whatever. He goes, no, if you really wanted to be there, you'd be there on time. Why don't you? And I said, I hate your class. It was the first time I was honest. Yeah. I hate your class. And he was like, okay. I was like, I hate it. I dread it. I get sick when I think about it. I hate the feedback. I hate the class. I hate this. I hate everything. But I love acting. And he was like, okay, I think you should change classes. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a quitter. And he was like, you're not being a quitter, it's your training. Yeah. I said, what if I get on the set and the director's, you know, we don't get along, and then I'm like, I'm off the movie. And then I can't do that. He goes, it's your training. It matters. Switch. But I had this comfort after that. I was like, okay, yeah, you know what? I feel like we can relate to each other. I feel like it's okay. I came back. Point is, I thought that emulating and copying was like a good approach to acting. Yeah. And it wasn't until I finally got in front of someone that was saying, it isn't that. It's this. It's living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. I was like, but how do you do that? How do you do? I mean, I was racking my brain, like you said, just going, I don't know what to do. I have all this unspoken potential. I can't articulate what I've got in me. Yep. If someone would just tell me how to do this, I just want to be left alone and do my thing. And when Jim came along and did that, you know, it's why I totally relate to what you're saying about like so much has changed. Because, and Jim said this recently, he got in front of some people and he was saying, and Jim Perrick, for those that don't know, he was my teacher and he's one of my close buddies, but he said recently when he was talking to a big group of actors, the person that was kind of running that sort of like webinar, you know, seminar was like, you are so great at teaching. You are so good at this and this. And he goes, you know, it's really just, the principles are just true because they're rooted in life. Yeah. I'm just communicating what's already true. And that's the exact attitude I have. Because you have like, you know, people want to start beef with you online and stuff about acting and you laugh because you're just like, we're fully in this together. Yeah. I'm not against you. I don't know why you would be against me. We can disagree for sure.
It's all art forms, honestly. People just can't. A lot of people can't agree to disagree about things like that.
Yeah, and I think it's probably things that you and I have discovered through our interest and discovery about psychology and what motivates people and why they do what they do. Of course, as actors, that's going to be an important thing to spend some time thinking about. And that's how I feel. I'm like, if this person, whoever they are, if they have something of value to offer, and it's different from me, like that's great. And you can take what works for you and keep it. And if it doesn't work, drop it. And that goes for anything I say or anybody else says. I think that's a wise thing for an actor, especially a young actor kind of finding their way to do. You should take many classes. And we talked about that not too long ago. And we've talked about it a few times in the past. But I think I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned this earlier, sort of like a preface to it, but throwing away the plan, how that's helped you free up in life. Yeah. I don't need to be here at a certain time. This, you know, that mentality in New York I had, same thing you have now. You know, I didn't think I would ever move back to Texas or fly all over and work and stuff, and I didn't know. But I'm in the same boat where I'm like, well, I'm not really saying everything. I know it's going to happen this way, this way, this way. I'm going to be here for 5 years and then I'm going to move here. Who knows? Tomorrow's not even promised. So what are we talking about? But at the end of the day, if it comes to we want to live truthfully under imaginary circumstances, then in some way we have to live truthfully under real circumstances. And that starts, I think, with throwing away the plan in a way.
Yeah.
There's a balance to structure and freedom, I think, but how has that helped you in your scene work or in your acting work to say you prepare so much and you work so hard and then you let it go and say, I don't know where it's going to go. How's that helped you?
It's, I mean, just in life, it's helped tremendously. I go about my days a lot more stress-free, just kind of more optimistic. And in terms of the craft and just with scene work and acting in general, it's, I don't know, it's good to feel those gears, because I mean, it's safe to say that I'm still, I mean, we're always learning. I think I'm still like, there's like the beginner stage, and then there's like the little gray area before you feel like you got a good hang on it. I'm kind of in that little area where I feel like I'm still in the beginner stage with a lot of it, and I can feel those gears turning, and that's always a great feeling. So with what's turning those gears is learning how to do that, is to let it go, and then I have the plan. And I realized that's how I've always been the happiest. Even like back in middle school when I was stupid and just like, I didn't care what people thought about anything. I just was like, I'm gonna make people laugh today. I'm gonna do something stupid. Like I don't care. And then as you get older, like obviously, like it's human nature. Like you get older, you start thinking about what other people think, and that can really get into your head. Same. That's kind of part of the reason why basketball got kind of tough, for reasons like that. And so it did make it a little bit more difficult. Because I mean, you go into acting, that's the career where you're gonna be in front of people and they're gonna judge you. That's the kind of the reason why what's gonna happen. They're literally watching you to watch you. It's not like an unprompted thing or whatever, where it's just like, oh, he's doing something. Like it's like people are going out of their way to see you do this thing. So
and everybody's got an opinion about what you're offering.
Yeah, whether it's good, bad, whatever. And it's just been this process, like over this last year and a half that I've been out here, and we've just been working and putting in the work. It's been great to just feel that progress being made, because it's hard in acting and entertainment to kind of not really track progress, but feel it, because sometimes people don't book something, they're like, I'm not doing nothing. Like people can see that from the outside. They're just like, well, what progress are you making? You haven't done nothing. It's just like, so when you have an opportunity to feel like you've made progress, and you can see the changes happening in just your day-to-day life, or with whenever you are doing the work, it's always great. It's always great to feel that. So to answer pretty much your question, it's to bring it all into like the craft and just acting. It's so great. It takes you back to that freedom that you had like as a kid, and just letting it go, just like not caring, just living in that, like being imaginative, being free, like believing whatever it is that you're believing. Just I don't know. It's kind of indescribable. It's indescribable, but it's great. It's a great feeling.
The ability to somehow train yourself to, despite so much preparation that goes into any project or any character, training yourself to, at the same time, when the camera is rolling or when the curtains pull back and you go out there on stage, to every time that's happening, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
For a lot of actors, myself included, that's terrifying, because so much of my ability and my training myself was, I trained how I'm going to say this line. I really worked on how I'm going to deliver this Remember the Titans speech.
Yeah.
So much so that I stole Denzel Washington's like full choices and personality and everything. And it's like, identity theft is not a joke, Adam. I was almost arrested that day. Coach was like, bring him in. No. But to a lot of actors, and I hope that they feel like they can move closer to that reckless abandon, that I don't know what's going to happen next. I think that was the thing that fascinated me the most as an actor, was when I first was learning in high school, because I was also a basketball player. Since,
I was gonna say basketball relates a lot to what we talk about that. We do our translations with basketball terms
all the time.
Yeah, like that's the thing I was gonna say too, was just like it's almost like you're on a basketball court. Like we've talked about plenty of times, this same comparison. It's like you can sit and run a play. We can run this play so many times in practice, as many as you want, but you can't be mad when the defense reacts a certain way and you don't have a different route to, like, just because you know it and you're running it that certain way doesn't mean you can't react. You don't know how the defense is going to react.
Mm-hmm.
What if they're running a zone on you? What if they go 1-3-1? What if they are double teaming someone? Like, you never know. It's just
you don't pick up the ball and look at the ref and go, we rehearsed it this way.
Yeah. You can't stop the game and be like, whoa. We ran this play 50 times in practice yesterday, ref. They can't just steal the ball when we pass it now. It's like basketball. It's like you're reacting. I mean, basketball's a very fast, reactive sport. That's what I took from it. Like, you can translate a lot of that from the game to and even the work that you put in for basketball. You can train if you're individually, just like you can work on these moves, whatever you make it when you're doing the work. So we try to work so hard on that, on the craft. So whenever you get to that, it feels easy. Feels easy.
Yes. So in the analogy, I think
I didn't mean to cut you off too.
No, not at all. Not at all. That's exactly perfect what you said. But the analogy, I think too, that continues to kind of hammer this home is you practice all the time. And I think a lot of basketball players too, we would talk about this, is if you're not familiar with basketball, you don't practice by scrimmaging all the time. It's like kind of a no-no. It's like you can scrimmage sometimes, but you better be working on different drills, defensive slides, running plays. You better work on pop-up layups,
fundamentals.
Fundamentals. So that you can move, you're basically moving it from one side of your brain to the other, so that when you meet the defense, you go, wait, I trained for this. I know how to adjust in a way that will get us the higher probability of putting it in the hoop, right?
You let it go.
You let it go, and you live in the moment, in that flow state. Really great movie example of this is Kobe Doing Work, that Spike Lee documentary. Really great, because you see, wow, this person has dedicated their entire life to one thing, to the work, and look at how free and in the moment this person is. Yeah. And that's acting, and it's even called a play, like you said. Yeah. You rehearse the play. I think the analogy was, you practice so that you can be free and you can play the game. But the same is true. It's like when Jim said to us in class, you use your technique for before you act, you use your humanity while you act. Yeah. It's that. If your training doesn't lead to you being more human, you need to look at your training. Just like if your practice doesn't lead to you being a better player, you need to look at your practice. You need to look at your disciplines. You need to look at what drills are you running? What are you doing? Because if you're not reacting and training yourself to react properly, then you're going to miss certain assignments. You're going to not react properly. You're not going to get the steal. You're going to get the turnover
in your game.
Yeah, and you got to work on those and develop them. And it's the same for acting. I think that's what you and I probably related on too, which was I just want to find a place that will give me drills like basketball coaches gave them to me, so I can get better at this thing. Oh,
dude, I meant to tell you this too. Like, this was one of the hardest realities in basketball, I guess, growing up. And that's why I'm so thankful for you and just like the work that we've done and the help that you've given me. It's the hardest thing that I've had to deal with, probably, like in terms of just like even basketball, is like when I look back at it, is like it was hard for me to find someone that like a coach or a mentor, like a trainer of someone that would like take me serious and like actually respect the level I was at and understand what I'm trying to get to. So like the fact that you were just like open and just like taking whatever it is I had, even like, I know it's not just me, you do it for everybody else, is what you do. It just means the world to me, because I had those moments in like high school and college where like I would reach out to a trainer in the area. Like whenever I moved out there, because I'm not in my hometown, I went to this college area. I'm like, hey, I'm this year at this college. I just really want to work on my game, do this, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm really serious. And they would just like talk to me and they would just ghost me, just never say anything back. Or just like, there was a trainer in high school I worked with, And we worked a couple times. He's just like, yeah, you got a good game, kid. Yeah. I'm just like, yeah, I'm really trying to get to the next level. And just like, I'm pouring my heart onto them. Just like, I really want to do this basketball thing. Like, I'm just really, like, I just want to keep working hard. I was like, what do you think are some things like, I'm like, we want to work something out. Like, I'll work to get the money to pay for it, whatever, blah, 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 and we can do this. And just no response. I'm just like, dang, it's just like, it hurts when like you want to work. Like, it's different. You're not asking for a favor. You're just asking for someone to do what they do and invest their time and give knowledge that they have to you to help you grow. Cause that's all I really wanted. And so that's why I'm like, I'm thankful for you. Cause it's just like, you give me that. Each time it's just like, we have a class. It's just like, well, okay, how can we get better? What can we keep working on? You took those challenges, we sit down and write them down. And it's always like, this is just what I've been needing, not just in acting, but just like kind of in life, I guess. Needed someone to really take me serious. Not that I haven't had people that take me serious, but just like there's been moments where it feels like that. And respecting who I am and where I'm at in my journey, I guess.
To
keep going.
Well, I mean, it's been such a joy to work with you in this capacity, but I think I just told you this past week, I was like, it feels like just the beginning anyway. Like there's so much to work on and so much to do because when you get to work with someone, even if it's in a training situation that has that mentality, it really makes you want to work even harder with them because it's like, I know they're going to take this and run with it. And that's really exciting to see someone just like me, where I was like, man, when I was learning this, I was taking pages and pages and pages of notes and I was doing stuff nobody was seeing. And I know what I was doing behind closed doors. And so when I see someone with that same mentality, it just excites me. And it's so fun to work with you and to train with you. And again, like we relate on so many levels, but I think that's my philosophy. Ultimately, it comes from my faith. Like I feel like God is redeeming things that I went through and that made me very jaded and upset and mad because I felt just like you. I felt so much on the outside of this whole industry, this whole world, because I didn't know anyone. And I was just a ball player coming into the theater room and people going, what? And I'm like, hey, I am a thespian now. And they're like, no, you're not. I've been doing this since I was 4. Like, get out of here. I was like, want to see my Denzel impression? And they were like, no, we don't want to see that.
I'll have you know, I was a square dancer and oops, in 2nd grade. I have stage experience.
And it's like, I felt that way for a long time. And I kind of felt like I had a chip on my shoulder. I had to earn it. I had to work even harder to be accepted, you know, and I hate that anybody would feel that way and that actors would feel that way. So I feel like it's been such a blessing that I can look at that now. And instead of being like, let me show the world, I got it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not about that at all. That's so ego and like fear-based.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about love, and it's about
spreading knowledge.
Trying
helping
to actually
learn.
be of service to someone for real. And that was really something that, again, Jim had taught about, you know, acting can be looked at as a service. You can really serve a story by bringing it to life, by being truthful and playing it out, by doing something with reality, scene to scene, so the audience can watch it and go, oh, I believe this. I want to know what happens next, and keep watching it, which hopefully that story serves the audience in a real way. Because we all know, we've watched movies and read books or, you know, experienced stories that really changed us or moved us or made us feel something. And as actors, I think at the pure thing, as an actor, I think that's really what you want to do. There's ego and there's selfishness. There's all these things mixed in with it. But I think at the end of the day, if there was no money, there was no fame, you know, some people would fall away, but the actors that would remain would be the ones that want to do something like that. And that's you. You've been like that.
Thanks.
You've been like that ever since we talked that first time. And that's why I was moved, because I was like, oh, that's how I feel. And it's been so great to work with you. And yeah, man, any other kind of, as we wrap up, any other closing kind of thoughts or things that you wanted to share, or even things that recently we've been working on that have been fun? Because you don't have to talk about this, but it's been admirable to see you set the challenge for yourself. We've been working on Glengarry Glen Ross. It's a really tough play, tough scene, tough character, but it's funny.
God, I want to do it. Like, I want to do the whole thing. I want to do the whole show.
Oh, I know.
They set the dates out on Broadway, by the way.
Did they really?
Yeah, I'm going. I'm already planning in April.
You're going?
I want to go, yeah.
April?
Yeah.
It's my birthday month.
You want to go?
Do a birthday trip.
We'll plan it after.
We'll plan after that. That sounds great.
No, yeah, that's it's a great challenge. I'm just we don't got to dive too deep into it, but like, I'm just excited. Just excited to keep pressing on that, and then just going from there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you have a quote.
Yes.
From a Rick Rubin book.
Yes.
That you just
Creative Act, A Way of Being.
Yeah. Go ahead and share it.
So we've talked about patience. We've talked about patience a lot, especially in our last few classes, and how that's like the main thing I've been trying to focus on and grow. So the quote here: we can't force greatness to happen. All we can do is invite it in and await it actively, not anxiously, as this might scare it off, simply in a state of continual welcoming. If we remove time from the equation of work's development, what we're left with is patience, not just for the development of the work, but for the development of the artist as a whole. Even the masterpieces that have been produced on a tight timeline are the sum of decades spent patiently laboring on other works. If there's a rule to creativity that's less breakable than the others, it's that the need for patience is ever present. Yeah.
And how has patience affected you? What is your relationship with it lately?
Lately, it's literally just been patience is something that I've struggled with my entire life. Like, I was a shortcut person with everything. School, basketball, like whatever it was I was doing, I was trying to find a shortcut. That's something, I'm not a big regrets person, but if I were to like go back, I'd be like, dude, quit taking shortcuts, bro. Like, quit taking shortcuts. Quit trying to find shortcuts. There's not to anything. And that's something I'm learning. Patience is something that I think people can lose, and I think they need to go back and learn it and experience it. So it's been great since I've made that like my primary like focus is just having patience with everything, just in life and acting, because it's something you need to be patient in, because you never know. It
also feels a little ironic because you lately, it seems to me, you feel like you do seem more patient, but it's ironic because you seem to have grown a lot in a little bit of time. Mm-hmm. I think it's attributed to that.
Yeah,
mindset.
I can, like I said, when we talked earlier, like when you're like, how much has changed? I could go on and on about how much has changed. I could write a book about it. I might, who knows?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Frederick, tell people who are listening where they can find you online.
Yeah. Just my name. So Frederick with an E in the middle, Frederick J Todd, just the J in the middle. Todd, you can look me up, Instagram, TikTok. I don't really get on there. TikTok. MySpace. I'm just kidding. I don't get on MySpace.
Zanga. Still got that going.
Kick. I'm just no, Instagram. Yeah, TikTok, Frederick J. Todd. I mean, you just Google Frederick J. Todd. I don't think there's that many out there, so I'll probably come up on like IMDb or Actors Access.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, man,
for having
joining.
me. It's great.
It's been awesome.
Part 1 of 3.
Yeah. No, it's great. Guys, thank you so much for listening. This is In the Moment. Like and subscribe and follow for more episodes.